Any organized system of a religion is a cult. It is a cult. We don't have an organized in that way. So,
other than what we organize for
ourselves, right? So, witches, technically pagan, we wouldn't be in a cult unless you're following a specific branch, design, whatever, liturgy.
Like if you are a Gardenian
Wiccan, if you're a Wiccan, you're a cultist. You're in a cult. Like, you're in the cult of Wicca.
Yeah.
And then are you in the cult of Gardenian, Alexandrian? Like, but you're in a cult. It's all, if you are part of something organized that has a structure, a liturgy, that has followers, that has organized leaders that you go to, blah, 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 you're in a cult. If you are in a coven, you're in a cult. If you have a high priest, high priestess, you have an organized system. You have a liturgy that you follow, a framework that you follow, and that is passed down through your coven. You're in a cult. That's all that means.
Right.
That's Hey witches, blessed new moon in Pisces, and welcome to an all-new episode of Spelling the HEKA-TEA with Marcus and Evan. My name is Marcus James. I am an author, specifically horror author, witch, activist, and defiant homosexual.
And I'm Evan. I am also a witch, obviously. I am a fiction editor, a legal document specialist, and a lipstick lesbian.
And if you are joining us again, welcome. We are so glad that you are here to join us in our corner of the circle. And if you are new here, if you're joining us for the first time, you're like, what are you? We are a talk show, a topical talk show, discussion show for witches by witches. And that's headlines of the day, things in media, news, obscure media, documentary, witchy movie reviews, etc. SpellCraft. We do special episodes for all the Sabbats, including a cooking segment called Delicious Witch, which focuses on meal items that you can use specifically for your Sabbat ritual or to celebrate the Sabbath. If you enjoy what you see, please like, comment, subscribe, and share, because obviously the more help we get in that, the more episodes we can continue to make. Yeah. So welcome. Again, as we said, new moon in Pisces. So just a reminder from Astrology Mixology last episode, with the new moon in Pisces, this brings a rushing charge of hopeful, helpful, positive energy. It's good for forming new bonds, relationships, etc. This is a great time to make new art, create new things, explore new entrepreneurial pursuits, finally make new plans, big plans that you've been kind of toying around with. And now is the time to actually put that into action and make those plans concrete, because this is the time to start dreaming big and using the magic of the new moon to achieve them. So come on, witches. Whatever you are hoping for, whatever you're aiming for, now's the time, tonight's the night to apply it.
And with that, that brings us to our next article of business, which is
Witchy News.
So I'm going to get this kicked off for us. So first thing that I wanted to talk about was there are two bills in Florida that are they're in the process of being passed right now. They're almost to that point. The first one is Florida House Bill 931, followed by Senate Bill 7044. They're almost through their last phase until they do get passed. This would allow chaplains in public schools. This initiative is geared towards helping students with mental health concerns. Now, obviously, that being said, given the First Amendment, they are not able to exclude any religion from this.
Should be.
Exactly. So, basically, the Satanic Church is wanting to get in on this, as they have every right to do so. So they are wanting to to have their priests go in as volunteer chaplains in the Florida public schools.
Yeah.
Which I think is awesome and
No,
great.
that is like, yeah, reach out, work in the community, which they always do.
They
Yeah.
do. And definitely as a student in the state of Florida, which can be very leaning towards the right.
Yeah.
I would be very excited and thrilled to have that as an option in my school.
Same.
So I'm all for that. But of course, you know, Christians are throwing a fit about it as they like to do. So yeah, I guess we'll just kind of have to see how this plays out. But there's been a lot of vocal talk from like higher ups within the Satanic Church, just obviously asserting their First Amendment rights, not backing down towards that pressure from the extreme
right. Lucian Greaves, right? Yeah. Yeah. And I think like, well, and he like is really good about, I mean, I really respect him. He's really good about always challenging and being willing to be the face to challenge the hypocrisy and bias of our government because it is so controlled by Judeo-Christian values, assessments, ideas, especially in Florida.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I'm excited to see how this story kind of continues to evolve. But I am just really hoping that nothing negative happens and the students get their either Christian or Satanic chaplains.
Right. So Tamara Law, a 20-year-old escort from Texas, is hoping a judge will find her insane of violently murdering her grandmother, whom she believed was working witchcraft against her. Allegedly, her father, sadly, contributed to convincing her to do so while she was deep in a meth-induced psychosis, in which she claimed to hear voices telling her to kill her grandmother and that her grandmother was putting witchcraft on her. I always love that it's like putting witchcraft on. Like
as though that's not exactly what Christians do.
Right. Well, no, it's just the phrasing of the term, putting witchcraft on somebody. Like, I'm like, it's just such a weird, the phrasing. What sucks about this is this is an issue, obviously, of addiction, mental health, etc. She has pled guilty. Okay. Keep in mind, she has pled guilty. She is like, I mean, she's like, admitted to doing it.
Right.
But obviously she's like, I'm insane. So she's hoping to obviously get mental health care for the rest of her life versus being put into prison.
Right.
Which I can understand. But the thing is like, my thoughts are twofold. One, this is going to be used in the media, which is, the headlines were so sensational. Okay. But, you know, Christian evangelists and fundamentalists are going to latch onto this as an example of scapegoating witches in the occult, right? And for their own diabolical Project 2025 Republican GOP right-wing agenda shit.
Right.
And yet this was not real witchcraft, and this had nothing to do, but yeah, it's clearly going to be, you know, weaponized. Yes. And so I think there's that. Second, I think it's hard because sure, she was on drugs and she was fucked up out of her mind at the time and killed her grandmother. But I feel like doesn't that fall under temporary psychosis? Yeah. Like, essentially, isn't that the Twinkie defense used in the Harvey Milk case? Like, exactly. I was messed the fuck out and psychotic in a meth-induced psychosis, and the voices from all the damage I had done, plus my father allegedly, as she claims, allegedly manipulating her and backing all this up for whatever his deeds were and why and motives. And, but that's not like a permanent psychosis. Right. That's not like schizophrenia. That's not schizoaffective disorder. No. That's not like, that was a meth-induced psychosis. So therefore, should you be deemed insane? Because she clearly understands what she did was wrong. She even says in her statement, I would have had no reason to hurt her. Like, I was like, my grandmother loved me. Like, I would never like, this is terrible. I can't believe I did this. Like, I was fucked up. Well, then clearly you understand the gravity of the charges against you. Exactly. So clearly you are fit to stand trial. Exactly. So you're not insane, and I don't think having been fucked up, you are permanently insane and should spend the rest of your life in mental health care, you know, having better facilities and be able to walk around. I can't, comparatively, in a lot of ways, which is sad to say, but comparatively, in a lot of ways, you would rather get put away in a mental facility, in a mental health facility, than you would to be sent to prison.
Right.
It's, by comparison, it's the Four Seasons.
Yeah.
And especially if you're not a shitty patient, if you're not fucked up, if you mind your P's and Q's, you're going to have a real nice time.
Yeah, that's true. Versus being in prison, completely different story.
Which is legal slavery. So it's like, my thing is like, I'm sorry, but like, the prison system is fucked up too, but between the two, I'm sorry. No, I don't think you should spend the rest of your life in a mental health facility.
No, like I think that place should go to someone that actually needs it. And in most cases with meth-induced psychosis, that fades when you come down.
Yeah.
So someone in that situation, obviously it's awful what happened. I completely, like, I do empathize with her statement that she would not have done this to her grandmother.
Right.
However, that's not the same as having a lifelong mental illness that needs attention.
Correct.
So next onto my next topic.
Yes.
This is kind of related to the same satanic temple in public schools type of thing.
Ooh, I love this. Yes.
Yes. So this is another story, not from Florida. This one is actually from California.
Okay.
So the Satanic Temple in Ojai, California, is offering after-school clubs.
As we've talked about before, yeah.
At Topa Topa Elementary in Ojai.
Okay.
However, of course, because Christians just have to ruin everything.
Always.
An evangelical group called the Good News Club, which is an on-campus organization.
Oh, of course.
Run by a local evangelical church.
Right.
Organized a perimeter prayer walk around the school in response to the fact that there is a club run by the Satanic Temple at the school.
Okay, so first of all, like, I've always had an issue with this shit.
Yeah.
When I was a Young Life. When I was a kid, we had Young Life. I don't know if you guys had that in Wyoming.
I think so.
But they're run out of the Life Center Temple over here in town,
Mhm.
and they have campuses fucking everywhere. They have a retirement home community. They have, like, I think a private school with boarding optional. Like, they have several campuses. It looks like they might even be creating, like, apartments and manufactured, neighborhoods here in Tacoma. And in all the schools, they have Young Life. And Young Life, when I was a kid anyways, took place after school. Actually, usually in the evening, but inside the school.
Yeah.
And they would meet in the mornings, and the big thing was they would meet in the mornings and gather around the flagpole and do a morning prayer before school.
Wow.
I do not understand why in a public school system there are religious clubs, organizations, etc., that are not even brought. Yes, okay, usually in order to get the in, they have to have, like, usually, like, a teacher or a student. Well, it has to be a student because it's a club, so a student has to propose it.
Right.
So they have a student, usually maybe a teacher who goes to the church as well. So then they go, they propose, What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? And especially because they sit there and they're like, oh, prayer in school is gone.
Exactly.
And, oh, religion, Christianity can't be... Excuse me, you people in every school in the goddamn state, high schools especially, they all have some kind of Young Life Center, Good Book Club.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking in El Paso, they had that type of shit too in all the schools. Like,
see, Wyoming is Mormon country, so with that, it was like, it wasn't necessarily clubs, but it was like Mormons would be, like, bringing their Mormon Bibles into school, and, like, they would, like, under the guise of befriending you, they would try and get you to, like, convert to Mormonism.
Oh yeah, no, we had the Mormons literally, we'd, like, leave school, we get out of school and leave, and there'd be young Mormons, or it would be young Christians, and they'd be handing out the mini Bibles, or the Book of Mormon, pocket Book of Mormon, and try to get us to talk, and this was all permitted, and I don't understand.
I can't tell you how many times, like, I thought I was making friends with another girl, and
then she's trying to recruit
suddenly,
you.
Like, she's handed me the Book of Mormon.
Yeah, because she's trying to recruit you.
And I'm like, I just wanted to eat gummy bears.
Just let a girl eat her gummy bears, damn it.
Anyway, so with this, the sort of lead pastor who was organizing this whole situation, he was quoted as saying that there is no place for this satanic club in school, blah, blah, blah. But then, of course, he turns around and then contradicts himself and says, oh, but we come to bless, not to curse.
Right.
When you literally... Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, is it's all about, like, the Christian hypocrisy of, if we do it,
it's okay.
It's okay. It's not, but if anybody else does it, it's fucking evil. If someone else does it, it's evil. Like, no.
Exactly. For me, I would just rather not see any religious clubs of any kind in school.
Correct. Like, but the hypocrisy of all that is if you were, let's say, a young witch, and you wanted to start a witchy club in your school, you probably wouldn't get approved.
Exactly.
And even if you did, your club would probably deeply protest it every fucking meeting.
Yeah.
You probably get threats by the student body council, we call them the ASB, the Associated Student Body.
Yeah.
Like, ugh. Like,
no. It's just in every aspect of Christianity, I really feel like there is such a deep level of hypocrisy and double standards,
and darkness,
you know, darkness.
and evil.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it is. It is. I don't care. I'm tired of Christians being like,
not all Christians,
not all Christians, and being like, they're not true Christians, and
Right.
that's not real Christianity. Like, oh no, like they're like apologists. No, that is Christianity. The Crusades, Christianity. The witch trials, the burning times, Christianity. The Inquisition, Christianity. Fuck it, I'm sorry. The Holocaust, Christianity.
You know, I think it's the same thing as when.
Own it.
Yeah, I think it's honestly
the Crusades.
Yes, I think it's the same thing as when, you know, straight men say, "Oh, like not all men," as though there isn't such a systemic issue within masculinity.
Exactly.
You know, obviously, no one's saying all men are rapists. That's not the point.
Ugh.
Anyway.
Kendrick Lamar in the Super Bowl. So you did not catch the Super Bowl,
No,
correct?
I did not.
Okay, so I thought Kendrick Lamar did an amazing performance. It had so many political undertones. Samuel L. Jackson was dressed as Uncle Sam.
Oh, wow.
It was very, like, there was a lot of symbolism about colonialism and white evangelical right-wing Christian Protestant domination, oppression, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Well, of course, this did not sit well with absolutely anyone on the right, anyone who was evangelical Christian, anyone part of the family, blah, blah, did not sit well with anybody.
Did anything sit well with them? I'm genuinely curious.
To their credit, most people were just like ignorantly dumb, bitchy racists saying shit like, what did I watch? I can't understand a single thing he said, blah, blah, blah. Mum, I don't get it. But, and why it's being mentioned on the show. Actually, the Super Bowl is going to get mentioned twice in this news segment, so, woo! Commentators, right-wing commentators, Eric Doherty and Benny Johnson, and Benny Johnson called the performance black nationalist, and Lamar specifically, a mumbling, pagan, satanic cultist.
Well, okay.
And then that was, of course, liked by a bunch of right-wing and Christian commentators, reshared and rebuffed and blah, blah, blah. Okay. There was nothing pagan about any of the symbolism, there was nothing reference to any of the African diaspora religions. There was no reference to paganism of any sort whatsoever. There was no reference to Satan or the devil. Like, there was and then you have pagan, satanic, cultist. So first of all, anyone who follows a certain path, religion, whatever, specific religion. We don't follow specific religions. So we're actually not cultists.
No.
Like, we're not in a cult.
No.
If you are a Baptist, you're in a cult. If you are a Christian, you are in a cult. If you're an Islamist, you're in a cult. Muslim, you're in a cult. If you are fucking Jewish, you're in a cult. Any organized system of a religion is a cult. It is a cult. We don't have an organized in that way. So,
other than what we organize for
ourselves, right? So witches, technically pagan, we wouldn't be in a cult unless you're following a specific branch, design, whatever, liturgy.
Like, if you are a Gardenian
Wiccan, if you're a Wiccan, you're a cultist. You're in a cult. Like, you're in the cult of Wicca.
Yeah.
And then are you in the cult of Gardenian, Alexandrian? But you're in a cult. It's all, if you are part of something organized that has a structure, a liturgy, that has followers, that has organized leaders that you go to, blah, 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 you're in a cult. If you are in a coven, you're in a cult. If you have a high priest, high priestess, you have an organized system. You have a liturgy that you follow, a framework that you follow, and that is passed down through your coven. You're in a cult. That's all that means.
Right.
That's all that fucking means. So, but then to have pagan and then satanic together. So first of all, obviously, Satanists are atheists.
Yes.
You have Luciferians, which are Satanists, but they worship they have the literal spirit, entity, deity, etc. of Lucifer.
Yes.
So they're Luciferian Satanists. But Satanist, just a Satanist, is 9 times out of 10 just an atheist.
Right.
So pagan, satanic, like, if you have three things that all contradict each other, to describe Kendrick Lamar, and what does this all boil down to? Racism. It goes back to what we saw in the 1900s through the 1940s in cinema, through the 50s, the voodoo cults of Haiti, the voodoo of Africa, the weird voodoo of New Orleans, racism.
And it still endures that, so many people think voodoo is just dolls and zombies and all of this sensational shit, and they don't realize it's an actual religion.
Right.
Like,
and then outside of that, you have the whole idea of just anything African being satanic voodoo.
Yes,
like, so they would
exactly.
just be like, oh, rock and roll.
Right.
When rock and roll became jazz, all these things, it was the devil's drums, the weird demonic devil drums of Africa, of Haiti, of Voodoo, of New Orleans, of the bayous of the South. The devil fiddles of the Appalachia and the Ozarks. Like, there's always whatever music is.
The devil went down to Georgia.
Correct. Which is played on the devil's chord of the violin, which is what Vivaldi, I believe it was. No,
Paganini.
Paganini, excuse me. That's who it was. And I should know that because I researched the fuck out of Paganini for my novel Symphony for the Devil in my Blackmore series. Available everywhere books are sold. Shameless plug. Yeah, I should remember that, Paganini. But he played on the devil's string, on the devil's chord. It's always it's because it was a wild, untamed sound. Whenever there's like a wild, untamed sound, the establishment has to say it's evil, it's the devil, it's pagan. Like, get over it. It's just rap.
Right.
It's just hip hop. That's it. Get over it. It's like spoken word, but faster.
Right. So this one is a more lighthearted one. So there is going to be a documentary all about witchcraft that's coming out shortly.
Ooh.
It is called Accursed Man.
Ooh.
And it kind of delves into that that expectation that a lot of people have that every time they meet a witch, their question is, are they going to curse me?
Right.
Yeah.
I hate that.
I know, I do too.
You're gonna cast a spell on me.
Don't
cast any spells on me.
I got that question so often as a young witch because, you know, when you are not making any efforts to hide who you are, definitely, especially if you're growing up in like a corn-fed place like I did, like you are gonna get those questions, and I got them all the time.
I mean, I honestly still get them now.
Yeah.
Like, as an adult, like when I was in my up till obviously I write full time now, but when I last worked, when I was in 2020, so when I was 35, I just turned 36. People, when they would find out at work, when they would find out that I was a witch, they would be like, don't cast a spell on me. You're not going to cast a spell on me. Ooh, I should get you to cast a spell for me. Like, always this, like, do magic, don't do magic, don't hurt me, don't do magic on me.
But
I want
someone else.
hurt someone else. What if I need you to get something? Ooh, like.
And for me, like, when it's come up at work, it's always been when someone sees, like, my witchy jewelry.
Right.
That's how it will come up.
Yeah.
Especially if it's anything like overt, like with a pentagram on it, and it couldn't be anything else.
Yeah.
You know, they will ask that question
all
the time.
Always.
All the time. Which is funny because I just want to turn around and be like, "Are you gonna baptize me?"
Right.
You know, like, what if I asked a Christian that?
Right.
You know. Anyways, so basically, this documentary stems from that kind of ideology, but the filmmaker went around to all of these different locations across North America and talked to practitioners, you know, in New Orleans with Voodoo, talked to a Mexican shaman, talked to witches in California, just like all of these different traditions of witchcraft, and just kind of delved into, you know, where that stereotype comes from, and like all of these different like sort of traditions and practices, and it sounds really interesting to me. I would definitely watch it. But anyway, it is out on all digital platforms starting on March 25th. So I will definitely be tuning in.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, we have to, obviously we will watch it for Witchy Media review, and so stay right here, come back, and find out what we have to say about it.
Yeah.
All right. Author Yvonne Aboro is coming out with a new book on April 22nd called Pagan Roots, Reclaiming Concepts of the Sacred. Contemporary paganism has sought to recover some concepts that were lost or rejected in past centuries, but has ignored or rejected others that were absorbed into Christian discourse. Can we reclaim some of these terms and recover their original meanings? I'm very excited for this book.
Yeah.
And this book actually, what's so great, has to do with our main topic of this episode, which is about reclaiming the structure of faith, the language of faith from Christians, from the right, and standing proud and shining and tall in our paganism, in our polytheism, and in our faith, and what that represents. So, very excited about that. Again, that is coming out on April 22nd. Pagan Roots, Reclaiming Concepts of the Sacred by Yvonne Aburo.
So the next thing was a group of archaeologists in the Netherlands
Mm-hmm.
uncovered a 17th century ritual site. It's near the hamlet of Hechingen.
Mm-hmm.
And what they found was over 190 gold and silver jewelry and valuable pieces, which in today's terminology amounted to about just over 300,000 euros worth
Oh,
of
wow.
stuff.
Uh-huh.
May have been used for harvest rituals as offerings. It was active for about 100 years, spanning from the 7th to 8th centuries.
Okay.
Then it ceased, likely due to Christianization that came around that sort of 750 AD mark. And that's kind of when it ceased. But before that, you know, it had been an active every year on the harvest, on the spring equinox, people would go and leave their offerings for
That's
a
so cool.
successful harvest. And yeah, I think it's just really cool to find that like sort of pre-Christian tradition within like a place like the Netherlands. Because, you know, of course, like any place in Europe you do associate with Christianity, with Catholicism, with that whole story. So it's just really interesting to find evidence of what came before that.
Well, and what I think is interesting, and what I love about this shit too, is you said it was like 750 to
Yeah.
850 AD, whatever. Okay, so Christianity showed up in the 1st century,
Yeah.
right? Okay, broke out from the Jewish Hermetic system,
Yes.
right? Okay, and then it was the 4th century, so the 300s,
Yeah.
that Constantine made Christianity the official religion of Rome, and by subsequent, basically the official religion of the rest of the Western world.
Right.
And yet, this went all the way into the 800s.
Oh yeah, this was the 7th and 8th centuries, so the 6th
So the
and
6th
700s.
through the 700s.
Yeah,
like,
so this took hundreds of years
Yeah.
to build up,
Like,
you know.
Christians like to pretend and think like that, oh, they just took over everything and blah, blah, blah.
And then it was bam, instant
Right,
Christian.
instant and everything like that, everything's Christian. No, and the thing is like, we also know, yes, this was done by the 750s.
Yeah.
Whatever, 780s. But there are so many places that literally pagan practice and belief has continued on.
Oh, yeah.
And we're talking like in Greece. We're talking about in Nordic countries, like
Yeah.
where pagan ideas rise in England,
Yeah.
like in the UK and Ireland, like active pagan traditions, practices in certain villages amongst certain peoples have continued on.
Yeah.
Like never, they were never stamped out.
You know, even in some of the big cities, like weren't we just watching something where they were doing a Saturnalia festival in London?
Yeah, like things were never stamped out.
Exactly. Christians just like to pretend that.
Correct. Like, and so I love when new archaeological sites are discovered, obviously just in general, like,
Yeah.
because I just think it's wonderful because it helps continue to build a tapestry of our polytheistic existence.
Exactly.
Like, and which has actual, I'm sorry, but also has actual historical backup.
Yes.
Like, Christians literally, like, we have the Bible, and the Bible says this and this, therefore it's true. But nothing in the Bible is historically, you don't find other texts
No.
written about some motherfucker living in a whale for a month.
Right.
And then coming out fine and being like, yeah, you know, like, I had, like, a bedroom down there inside his gut, and, like, I wrote my story. Like,
Right.
all these things mentioned in the Bible, like, these great things that happened, there's no other historical documents written by anyone at these time periods
Right.
to back up anything that the Bible says happened anywhere. Whereas you have other records by other civilizations saying, yes, they worshipped these gods or they had these traditions, or this event happened, or this event happened. Like we have perspective of like Roman and Grecian, like in Persian battles. We have Grecian and Roman texts that say, oh, at this time we fought the fucking Persian dynasties.
Right.
And then you have the Persians who are like, at the same time, this is the time we were fighting the Romans, we were fighting the Greeks, like we were fighting the Phoenicians, whatever. Like, there's actual historical backup for these events that have occurred. But like, and obviously not all. Like we know, but we do know that, for example, like Troy and the Trojan, that didn't exist specifically.
Right.
But it's more than likely was an actual war between kingdoms that did happen.
Right.
Probably like 200 or 300 years beforehand, before Plato or whatever, I think it was Plato who wrote about the Troy and the Trojan War. By the time it got to him, the names had changed.
Right.
And there had been this fantastic, but like, it was there, and if they go back far, they can say, oh, here it is.
Right.
Why is there no other talks in history written by anybody else in other civilizations about Jesus? Like, they talk about like King Herod, like all this shit, like, yet we don't have any document of any emperor putting Jesus on the cross.
Right.
Like, we don't
Like,
have any of the, like...
Sometimes I'm just convinced that, like, the entire Christian Bible was just like a joke. Like,
Yeah.
like this man was just writing this, like, hey, I'm gonna tell them that a man lived in a whale's stomach. I'm gonna tell them that a virgin gave birth. Like, let's see if they believe it. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like I looked up, I was curious, and I just was like, I'm gonna look up, did the great exodus of the Jews happen, and Moses, and the parting of the Red Sea, and all this shit, and like the plagues, and all this shit? No! There was the first, no, there was no historical backing of this happening. Yes, there were several throughout there was like, I think it said like, yes, over the course of like 200 years, there was a migration of Jews out of Egypt, out of this area. Yeah. Over the course of like 200 years. There was no but there was no like mass exodus and the parting of the Red Seas. Right. And that never happened.
Right. And like the whole like, you know, Moses and Ramesses story, like, I'm sorry, but like Ramesses was the pharaoh. Like, this would have been documented had it happened.
Yes, you know? It never happened. We have the historical of what happened to Ramses. We literally don't. We have his sarcophagus.
We do.
We literally have him. We have him. We know what killed him. Mm-hmm. We know it. There was no great plague that descended with the. None of this happened.
No.
There are no Egyptian tablets that talk about the plague of locusts and all this shit.
Or the death of the firstborn.
Or the deaths of the firstborn. None of this happened. None of it.
Exactly.
Yet they pretend and claim truth. And that's just the difference. At least with us, we're like, no, we have historical backup. Right. So that's why I just love when archaeologists discover new pagan shit.
I know.
Especially that went into after Christianity supposedly dominated everything. And then we're like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 years later. And paganism is still going strong.
Exactly. Anywho, that's our soap.
So 36-year-old presenter Ryan Clark of Sky TV. So if you live over in the UK, Ireland, you will know who the fuck I'm talking about. I know who he is because he is on things that I have documentary special things I've watched. That's the reason I know who he is. He's very handsome though. But is reportedly working on a new 3-part documentary on the Witchcraft Act of 1542. He will be working with historian Alice Roberts on a 3-part The Witches of Essex, is what the title is, docuseries, exploring Henry VIII's 1542 law against witches and witchcraft, which led to the thousands and thousands of deaths of men, women, and children, cats and dogs and birds and bats.
Yep. What a gem of a man, huh?
Yeah, so I am looking forward to that.
Oh, me too. I will be very excited to watch that. Well, I have another archaeology, witchy, pagan story for you.
Yes.
All right, so this one takes place in Norway. And for any Norwegians watching this, just know I am about to be butchering this word, and I apologize. I am but a lowly American. Anyway, so archaeologists from the University of Oslo in Norway excavated the Svingerud grave field in, I believe it's Holla, Norway.
Okay. Again, we are apologies.
Apologies.
If we are butchering, we are sorry.
we're sorry. But we're trying.
We are, yes.
So, you know, Rose Nyland is ashamed of us right now.
Flanuken Fagergenbergen.
Exactly. Yeah. She's gonna slap us with a herring. Anyway, so at this excavation site, and this dig took place between 2021 to 2023. So like now all of the finds from that are kind of being like unearthed and cataloged and all that stuff. So
it's mined out.
Yes. So sandstone fragments were discovered with older Futhark on them, which is the earliest known runic alphabet.
Cool.
Yeah. And radiocarbon dated artifacts found on the dig suggests that this dated from the Roman Iron Age, which was from around 50 BC to 275 AD.
Okay.
Which is a breakthrough because previously the practice of inscribing stones was actually thought to have just begun around the 4th to 5th centuries. So now we've got evidence that this had actually been going on for centuries before that.
Right. Divination's been happening for ages. And once again, yeah, like people are like, oh, well, and it's just like with tarot, they're like, oh, that's a Renaissance thing. No, actually it goes back further. Like, I love that we have where it's like, 5th, 6th century AD is when we thought runes started happening. No. Way back in pre-Christian pagan times, the runic alphabet, excuse me, I can't talk. The runic alphabet was put into practice and created. And that's awesome.
I know. I was just really excited to read that.
All right. Lastly, kind of fun news. I told you we had something else about the Super Bowl. Here it is. So first and foremost, before I say the actual what happened, I saw the Super Bowl. I was rooting for the Eagles, as apparently most everybody was for some reason. And I noticed Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs And apparently everyone noticed. He looked really like sick and like pale and clammy and just not well. And everyone's like, what the heck is going on with Patrick Mahomes? Like, he looks so fucked up. What the hell? Well, apparently, a woman has gone viral on social for being caught at the Super Bowl. So she was there in the stands watching the game. She was in an Eagles jersey, caught stabbing a Patrick Mahomes-esque voodoo doll or puppet around her neck during the game. So I just think this is funny that, like, bless you.
Sorry.
Oh God, demons.
Ooh, just come to me.
They just came to you. I just think this is hilarious because, I mean, you know, it could be many a thing, but I just find that funny that she was like in the audience, she was doing that, and he looked so unwell, and it's not even funny. And then to hear this, I'm like, oh, of course.
Right.
Now that makes complete sense.
Totally.
So while funny, haha, my only concern, obviously, is that this will be used by the right and by Christian influencers in the church and evangelicals, blah, 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 as further proof that the witches are coming. So, again, we'll continue to see what comes of this. Watch this space. So now to our main topic of the episode. We want to discuss reclaiming faith, reclaiming spirituality, reclaiming the language of spirituality, reclaiming the language of faith as polytheists, as pagans, as witches, and what that means. Obviously, if you are an atheist, and you don't believe in anything and don't have that, then
right, there's nothing to reclaim for you.
There's nothing to reclaim for you, and that's fine. And you can fast forward through this and get to SpellCraft.
But this is something we really feel passionately about.
But for those of us who are of faith, whether many a deity you follow or one or ancestors, whatever, we thought we would talk about the language of faith, especially when it's been so co-opted by one group of people for so long. I, of course, posted a video about my own faith journey and being called by HEKA-TEA and finding her and what that means. And that was really inspired by what happened in Tulsa with the city council in Tulsa over what we talked about in the last episode, where a community member gave an invocation before the city council meeting, and it was an invocation to the Gorgon goddess Medusa. And as a result, after she did it, the next meeting, atheist gave like a humanist plea of morality, I guess, because it wasn't really an invocation or prayer, and just the Christians of Oklahoma and Tulsa got really super upset about all of it, but specifically over the witch giving this invocation to Medusa. So now they're not doing any invocations before meetings, which again is actually really great because separation of church and state. It's just the bullshit hypocrisy reason of why, because had it been referenced to Jesus and God, they would have been fine with it, and that would have never happened.
Exactly. Or even if it had been like to Mother Mary,
right?
Please do all the things that she said to Medusa.
Right.
Like, I don't think anyone.
No. So that fueled my own idea of like anger, just because I'm so sick and tired as someone who I am a person of faith, of deep religion, of deep spirituality, of deep dedication, and have been my entire life. So it has just always freaking irked me that this has been the situation that Christians have adopted faith, spirituality. Christians, all of the Abrahamics have been like, so Islam, Judaism, Christianity, all three, and then all their branches out from under them are like, oh, we own faith. We own the word faith. We own the word spirituality, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, no, fuck that. Yeah. And so I, in response, did a video. If you haven't seen it, it's on the page. Go check it out. But then, of course, we have the Pagan Roots book coming out, which I was like, oh my God.
I can't wait to read that.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
And then an incident on January 13th in Glasgow happened. In Glasgow, Scotland, there was this national that they do every year, Interfaith Convention of Scotland, and the 850 conference, and it celebrates, so I guess last year would have been the 849, but it celebrates the now 850 years that Scotland became a burr, which I believe is like its own sovereignty, even though it's still in the UK. Like, they have their own representatives and their own, like, they're Scotland, you know. So this was supposed to be an interfaith conference put on by the government, the Scottish government, but it was taking place in a Presbyterian cathedral, which is controlled by the Presbyterian Church. And so they deemed who could and could not attend, speak, whatever.
Of course they did.
As a result, all pagan and humanist speakers, attendees, etc., who were already booked and scheduled were canceled because it was consecrated ground is the term they
yes.
use. It was consecrated ground, the ground. Therefore, witches, pagans couldn't be on there speaking. Atheists couldn't be on there. They deemed the Presbyterian Church clergy. They deemed what was spiritually acceptable to speak at this interfaith conference.
And just to exclude on the basis of consecrated ground. Really, to witches, those who consecrate every day?
Well, not right. And not only that, but where most of your Christian cathedrals, churches, etc., were built on top of pagan temples, pagan ritual spots, pagan sacred sites and circles. Like, who's on whose consecrated ground first?
Exactly.
Come on now. Who's on whose consecrated ground first?
Right.
Ours. So, because of this, all of this, and then what's going on here in the United States and in the Western world in general with this rise of right-wing Christian nationalism in all its various disgusting fascist forms.
Yes.
I thought it would be good to actually talk about faith, reclaiming the language of faith, what that means as polytheists, as pagans, as people of alternative belief. Again, if you are atheist and you're like, I don't have time for this, skip through the SpellCraft. Well, somewhere it will be, and it'll tell you where to go. But please, if you find this topic interesting, or you obviously do follow deities, spirits, communicate with ancestors, spirit guides, whatever, please stay. Yeah, let's talk about all of that.
Yeah.
So, it's hard, I get, because pagan is such a loosey-goosey term.
Yeah.
And there's no set structure. I mean, there are obviously branches of things, like we can talk about Wicca, specifically, especially Gardenian and Alexandrian specific branches, Dianican branches, where there is a structure. There are temples that you can actually go to that like are around, and like there are. But by and large, it's very loosey-goosey. It's very personal. It's usually very solitary.
And even if you do follow a deity, like your relationship to that deity is so individualized to like their relationship with anyone else.
Correct.
You know, so there really can't be a structure in the same way like Christianity or Judaism.
Right.
You know?
Right. And so because of that, and because of the pop culture-y nature of witchcraft especially, and paganism and shit like that, and there is a tendency by others to completely dismiss the spiritual, religious significance, weightiness, heaviness of it for us.
Yeah.
And that's to our detriment.
It really is.
And it's, 2025, the year of the hermit, in terms of the tarot of the year, and in the Chinese zodiac, it is the year of the wood snake.
Yes.
All about chthonic, spiritual, reclaiming, retouching, re-strengthening, getting deeper, improving, stronger, etc. So this is, if any time, this is when, like, I feel like we need to start reclaiming these languages and these terms. And so I thought we should talk about it, open discussion of what those things mean to us in our journey. So for me, and I think for a lot of us, like for me, I know I do ritual. It's usually about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. I do it every new moon. I do it every full moon, obviously every Sabbath. And then I also have my dailies and my weeklies that I do. And it dominates every aspect of my life. Like
Me too.
It is my life. Like I am deeply, very much a person of faith.
Yeah.
And it just is not in the Christian God. But like I go to church.
Yes.
It just happens to be in my office. But it very much is church for me.
Me too. I have 3 altars in my home. One of them is in my bedroom. The other 2 are in a section of my living room. I'm an apartment dweller, so I have had to sort of divvy things up. But I have one like ritual space that's in my main room, and then I have a separate altar that's in my bedroom. Each one, well, actually, I lied. I have 4 altars. One of them is to any deity that would like to come through. As we've discussed, I've been on like a journey with fertility. And so that space I dedicated as sort of a like a manifestation place with regard to that. So basically it's where I like to pour my energy if I'm really feeling like connected to that part of my life. And like any deity that would like to come through, I welcome them there. But then my other 3 are dedicated to individual deities. I worship them. I mean, definitely on the new and full moons as well. But yeah, I mean, just the same as you. Recently, I have really been deepening my practice. I'm in front of at least one of my altars at least once a day, if not multiple times a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I really, just like you, I consider myself to be a woman of faith, just not in an Abrahamic way. And like something that has really kind of touched my life recently that I think like really relates to this is so I'm on a Facebook group for patients of my fertility clinic. And my clinic has several like different branches around the US. And specifically, I did not want to go to one of the branches in a certain state on the East Coast because of a certain doctor who is there.
Okay.
And he has been known to kind of push his Christian beliefs
Ew.
In the course of his medical practice.
Of course.
So I already, like, I went in knowing, like, I don't want to go to any of those locations because I don't want him to ever do my retrieval or my transfer. I don't want that energy because I am a person who is very devotional and faithful, but not to that Abrahamic God. And I think that would just be a really bad situation for me. So I'm not going to put myself in that situation. But I was looking at the Facebook group the other day, and my heart really goes out to this woman who experienced this. Like, if you're watching, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. So she had a phone consult with him.
Oh God.
And he asked her, or no, it wasn't a phone consult. It was like the first appointment, like to kick off her actual treatment cycle.
Oh, okay.
So it was in person. She went.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And during the appointment, like, he asks if she is religious, and she is not. So she responds that she is not. And then he kind of just goes on a rant about religion and how it like impacts this whole situation. And this is just, you know what? This is not helpful for a person who's going through this as an atheist.
No.
Like, it is already so much of a situation that it's just like strife with emotion and all of these different things, so many ups and downs, like, so much emotional turmoil, without you also like guilting this woman that she is not of religion. Like, that's awful. So just like seeing that story made me all the more like sure that I did not want to ever go to see this one doctor, because I'm sure that like if you reacted that way to someone saying they're not religious at all, like how would he react to me?
Oh, well, I can tell you, like, it would be that you would literally have aligned yourself with the devil and you were a danger to your child, and they would probably file like a CPS report claiming that, you know, you are in a satanic cult, like satanic panic shit.
Exactly. And it's not like I would even get like very in depth with the question. Like, if that were ever posed to me, I would say like, yes, I am religious, but it's not Abrahamic. That's all I would say. And I'm sure he would still have that same reaction.
See, I would just say like, I'm not religious, or I mean, I would say yes, I'm religious, and then not even go beyond that. Just like, yes, I'm religious. And then if he's like, oh, well, what do you believe? What's your religion? Do you believe that Jesus is Christ is your Lord and Savior? Then be like, no. And then he's like, but I thought you were, what religion? And then you could be like, bitch, none of your business. Do your job. You're a doctor.
Exactly.
Like, that is like, it's like, it makes me think of like the abortion clinics, the women's health clinics that are like, if a girl's like, shit, I need to get an abortion, where can I go?
Right.
And looks it up, and it's like, oh, go to this clinic, right? We do that. And then she goes, like, this family planning clinic, and we do abortions. And then she goes, and they're like, oh yeah, totally. And then they bring someone in that's like, has some scary, fucked up picture of like a baby that like got ran over by a car, and they're like, this is an aborted fetus, and like, do you know Jesus? And it's like traumatic and fucking like, Christians, like, you guys are evil. You guys are evil. You like evil.
Yeah, like you
evil.
Like, it's just interesting.
Evil. Satanists don't do that. Witches don't do that. Wiccans, pagans, heathens, Luciferians. No one does this evil, fucked up, manipulative, torturous, lying, fucking con artist shit. Except you guys. You. Fuck.
It's just interesting, like, seeing that, Christians are manipulating women on both sides of the pregnancy equation. Right. You know what I mean? like
the ones who want to have babies and the ones who are like, shit, I need to not.
Can't. Yeah. And obviously both situations are such heavy, like, emotional turmoil situations where, like, yes, you could easily be manipulated.
Yes.
If you were really not strong in your mind at that moment.
Yeah. You know? Like, God, you guys are psycho. You guys are satanic. You guys are evil. You guys are all the things that you fucking accuse all of us of being. No, the only people who are doing crazy, insane, effed up crap. The only people who are traumatizing, torturing, abusing, destroying lives of others is you.
Like, could you imagine if, like,
Oh,
if, like, when you were last working in a regular job, like, if you had like a customer come in and they were like ringing up, and as you were closing out their transaction, you would have been like, hey, so have you accepted HEKA-TEA as your savior? You know what I mean?
like, I'm like, the less people to the club, the better.
Right.
Like, no, that's not true. I want to spread her message far and fucking wide. But yeah, I wouldn't
You would
do
never,
that.
that wouldn't even occur to you.
It would never occur to me. I'm like, make your person get the fuck out. Like, I don't want to talk. I don't want to have a spiritual discussion with you. I don't want to convert you. I don't want to bring you to anything. You are meant to wait. If you are meant to be, you will be. It'll happen. It'll happen.
Exactly.
You are a witch. If you are called, when you are ready, when the time has come, it will happen. I don't need to bring you forth.
Exactly.
I don't need to posturalize.
No.
I'm not being to. We're just told to use our voice, use our abilities to spread and amplify the message we need to, but we don't need to force it on other people.
Exactly. That's why I was so disgusted.
We're a talk show for witches, by witches.
So I was so disgusted by this whole situation because I was like, you're a medical professional.
Yes!
Like, what the
Shut your
fuck?
mouth. Don't be talking about religion, period. I don't care if you're another, I don't care if you're another witch. I don't care if you're another HEKA-TEA.
Exactly.
Like, if I don't know that, like, if I'm just going to you for medical help and I didn't seek out specifically, like, pagan, polytheist, witchy doctor, right? Like, and I go to you, I don't care if we speak the same religion. Don't fucking talk to me about it. Do your job as a medical professional and like, shut up.
You're like, fix my spine. Let's talk about HEKA-TEA while we're off the clock.
Sure.
Bitch.
But
like,
while I'm here, I'm not here to talk about spiritual. I'm like, oh, that's really amazing. Do your job.
Exactly.
Just do your job. That's great.
Exactly.
Like, if you're like, oh my God, I love HEKA-TEA, or oh my God, I'm a witch, or oh my God, I follow Artemis. Like, whatever. I follow Dagda. That's the Dagda. That's great. I am with the Morrigan. Oh, wonderful. Guess what? I don't care. I'm going to be like, oh, that's cool. I'm a pagan too. I'm a polytheist too. And then I'll be like,
so what does my chart say?
Yep. What does my chart say? What are my results? I'm not here. You are shut up. Don't talk to me. Because I don't care if we have the same spiritual path. The minute you start talking to you as a medical professional, start talking religion to me, spirituality to me, that immediately tells me I can't trust you as a medical professional, and I can't trust your advice because I can't trust where it's coming from, and I can't trust what your agenda is because clearly it is not the fucking Hippocratic Oath. So goodbye.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't care what you believe. Again, I don't care if it's the same fucking thing. Shut up.
Exactly.
Shut up.
Now, luckily, no one that I've heard is like that at the location I will be going to, but
praise
I specifically am not going to either of his locations because I don't want to be treated by him.
No, or anyone trained under him or who works for him, employed by him. No.
Yeah.
But, and that's the thing is, like, we're supposed to have, protection under the Constitution, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've been included in, non-discrimination policies. Well, Wicca has specifically, which luckily Wiccans are technically pagan and polytheists.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are.
Yeah.
So, not technically. They are.
They are.
So, like, you can just say, like, oh, I'm Wiccan, and that's fine. But, like, you're supposed to be protected, right?
Yeah.
Like, and yet, that validity of our faith, the validity of our belief is not afforded to us.
No.
It's always treated as gimmicky.
Very much.
Or, like, identity, or, like, whatever bullshit. And
I mean, just, obviously we are supposed to have freedom of religious expression in the U.S. I have been discriminated religiously at work. I'm sure you have too.
Life, yeah.
And it's seen as so okay
Yeah.
because we're not Jewish, we're not Christian, we're not Muslim.
Fuck, not even Hindu or Buddhist.
Yeah, exactly. Like even those are more accepted as like
a religion, right?
But we're not. Like we're just crazy. Satanists.
Right, or we're lost.
Like,
yeah, we're lost. We're evil. We're demonic. We're. Look, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
All right, being a witch means you're spooky.
Of course.
Being polytheist pagan, it means you're spooky.
Yeah.
As it should be. It's the left-hand path. It is the path of shadows and of night for a reason. Even if your deity of worship is literally a sun deity, it is still the path of darkness, the path of night.
Exactly. And honestly, this is really where I feel like that connection comes from, is that like those deities, they would not come to you if you weren't a little spooky.
Right. Like, yeah, we're spooky. Shit looks spooky. I'm looking at our altar right now and I'm like, it's spooky. It's spooky. Like, candles, cauldron, the pentacle, black, all these fucking crystals, shit. Like, all the
Your
sacred
Dracula
things.
t-shirt.
My Dracula t-shirt. Like, shit's spooky. Like, being a witch is spooky. Being polytheist pagan is a little spooky. Because it's primal. It's chthonic. It's the primordial darkness before the light, the break of HEKA-TEA out of Nyx. Like, it's fucking intense.
We have to revel in that.
Yes.
You know, I think like so many witches kind of just try and pack themselves into the corner that Christians have painted them into. And, you know, it's just this very like, oh no, we're just like you. We're all light and goodness. No.
Well, I came like, okay, so
we have to accept and own and be empowered by that.
Yes.
You know? Like,
I came across a fucking, this is Wiccans drive me insane because they think that everything they believe and taught is actual truth and correctness. So, okay, so I came across this, this Reddit about HEKA-TEA, and someone had asked, what are good sacrifices to HEKA-TEA, right? Someone responds, they're Wiccan. They're a Wiccan.
Okay.
The respondent. Wiccans, traditional witches, pagans don't sacrifice. Sacrifice doesn't exist. You wouldn't sacrifice anything to HEKA-TEA. She doesn't want, like, she wouldn't take sacrifice. That would be offensive to sacrifice anything. There is no sacrifice in Wicca and witchcraft, blah, blah, blah. Did not comment because I am just, it's not my thing to get into, like, back and forth fucking comment chat wars with people online. I get bored really quick. I will usually comment. If I feel the need to comment, I will literally just say what I want to say, and then I never even look at the chat again. Because I've said what I need to say. I don't need to get into discourse back and forth. Like, my point, my thoughts, my beliefs are not going to change. My opinion's not going to change. Getting into a flame war with someone is not going to fucking, all it does is eat up my fucking day. So I usually say what I have to say, and then I just don't even bother looking at it. And I was going to respond, but then I was like, I'm not going to waste my breath because it's so stupid. I have this platform to do so. What the fuck? First of all, HEKA-TEA's favorite offering, one of her favorite offerings, was a sacrifice of black hounds. Most deities back in the day loved sacrifice.
Exactly.
Second, a sacrifice can literally be like, I don't know, you have like a really expensive bottle of champagne in your fridge, right? And you drink all of it except for like you got one glass left. And you fucking love it. Yeah. You love this champagne. You know that you probably won't be able to afford to buy it again for another year and a half. And so unless you get lucky and someone gifts you a bottle of this champagne, you are just, it's never going to happen. And you give that last glass
to them.
That is a sacrifice. Because something that you deeply loved and cherished and wanted for yourself, you were like, I'm going to share it. What I have of this special thing that like I have been dreaming about, tasting, having, whatever, saved up for. And I'm going to give it. That is a sacrifice. That so much is a sacrifice. Dancing for them, giving up your energy, that is a sacrifice.
Exactly.
Lighting a candle, giving them a candle and it burning, that is a sacrifice of the candle. That is an offering. So many things are sacrifice.
Exactly. Like
giving up something in exchange for something is sacrifice. If you're like, I am going to give up smoking weed for the next week.
For that.
If you in exchange, like I will sacrifice getting high for a week. If you'll do this or that, fulfill this or that task for me, fulfill this request, that is a sacrifice. So, like, sacrifice doesn't have to be blood. It doesn't have to be a life.
No.
But so much is sacrifice. And yes, deities require sacrifice.
Exactly.
All of them. Even the Christian deity requires penance, acts of goodwill in his name. That is sacrifice, giving up your time, your energy, etc., to fulfill something in the name of this deity. That is a sacrifice you have given to them.
Exactly. And what about the Christian communion, you know, the blood and the body?
Right. Like, sacrifice, the ideal of taking
It's not a literal chunk of flesh and blood out of a body. It's wine and bread, but that's what it symbolizes.
Right, it's still sacrifice. Yeah. And so I just think that, like, but it just goes back to, again, how do we get taken seriously when we can't agree on even what things are because you have what I call the evangelist version of pagans, of witchcraft, Wiccans, who claim to be the end-all, be-all. Their Wiccan Reed, their threefold law is somehow universal and absolute.
Right.
Like...
Meanwhile, there are so many different kinds of pagans. Not everyone is going to have the same type of rules that you do.
And Wicca is so heterosexual, heteronormative focused, where they literally are like... And I remember I had so many books on Wicca, actually, when I was a teen, that literally specifically addressed homosexuality and said that it was not compatible in Wicca because you needed... Wicca was all about the union of the God and the goddess, the great horned one and the mother and the earth mother. Like, that was literally put forth. So it's like, please, like, Wicca of all has such a dogmatic this way, that way, but they're constant, like, I don't require sacrifice. I don't need, like, no, like, we don't do that. But yes,
Yes, you
yes.
do.
And in traditional, like, let's just be honest. If I was a traditionalist Hekatean witch, I would be sacrificing some puppies.
Right.
Like,
oh my God.
we adapt with
oh my
the
God.
times.
Oh my God. This would have been such a better backstory of Cruella. What if she was just a Hecatean witch?
Right? Oh my God, that would be amazing. Like a super traditionalist theist.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Like
cut out that whole thing about puppies chasing her mom off a cliff. Like, make her a witch.
Right. Like, obviously we evolve with the times, and I could never fucking hurt a dog.
Not.
I could never hurt
love
anything.
dogs.
Or well, any animal. Like, oh God. But like, because we evolve with the culture of the times.
Exactly.
But that means that our sacrifices, our offerings change. But the offerings are still offerings, and they are still sacrifices, and we still make sacrifices. So the Wiccan statement of no, we don't do that, it's so ignorant.
So ignorant.
But that's what I mean, is how do we get to, especially when you have situations where people are like where they're like, oh, I worship Loki, or I'm married to Loki, and you're like, oh, that Norse deity, okay, and then you find out, no, they're referring to the Marvel Loki, because everyone can now worship whatever god they want, because they're like, oh, an egregore, and if enough people believe in it, it becomes, how many people are worshiping fucking Roku,
exactly.
and like make enough to make it collective into a physical energy, and no, that is just you. Like,
exactly, like, oh, I'm gonna go up before my altar with my new deity. It's a Yu-Gi-Oh. No,
right, but no, but that is, but that exists.
I know. I just wish it wasn't.
But like, there's like maybe 25 of you people doing that. That's not enough mass consciousness to create an egregore. Like, it's not like, and so when you see the shit where it's just like you can pick whatever you want, it takes away the validity when you're in it of those of us who worship real deities, pre-Christian fucking deities, who have existed and continue to exist, and whose worship maybe has waned and went underground, but never stopped completely.
No, never.
Like that.
I mean, just search any deity's name on Etsy and see all of the things in their honor that you can see.
Well, and not only that, but it's just, you go back, and there are traditions that you go to places, and there are cults and people and shit, individuals who have believed in this deity, that deity, etc., and that have done so, and their families have done so, their communities, whatever, consistently, since those gods ruled, pre-Christian.
Exactly.
Like, yes, the vastness of their worship has waned,
of course,
but the worship of these deities never disappeared completely.
No.
Like, so that's a lot different. The worship of the old gods, of the great ones, of the deathless ones, the immortals, that is way different than, oh, I worship Chris Hemsworth's version or the Marvel version of Thor.
Right.
I'm sorry, you are just have a delusional love for a fictional comic book character. Like,
right.
People who literally, their deity is literally anime characters.
I think that literally some people are conflating like an influence with like an act of worship.
Right. These give characters based off archetypes.
Right. Because like there are certain characters in movies that I really have like an affection for, and I'm like, oh yeah, this character is responsible for my shady face or something, you know?
Yeah.
But I know how to separate that from like the actual deities that I worship and I dedicate myself to.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think some people don't know how to make that distinction.
No. And I think when we have this like gimmicky aspect to the craft, we have this gimmicky aspect to witchcraft, this gimmicky aspect to polytheism and to deity worship, which is clearly not reverence of it. Like, are you fucking, like, for me, it's like when I'm before HEKA-TEA, I am reciting, chanting, whatever, the Orphic hymn, which is like that is different from your chant to fucking Yu-Gi-Oh!
Exactly.
Like, what, like, to Cowboy Bebop. Like, what?
Oh my God.
Like, no, like, that is not real.
No,
you can't just be like, I love this cartoon character, this movie character.
I mean, it's
so I'm going
fashion
to
them into a god. No,
that is not
a god.
how an egregore works. You have to. So, for example, the Christian god would be like an egregore. Santa Claus.
Right, Santa Claus. Yeah.
Santa Claus is a real entity. Why? Because enough people throughout the past 200 years and even before that, had believed in some form of Father Christmas, who
Right.
then became specifically Saint Nick, Kris Kringle, Santa Claus
Mhm.
in the 1840s.
Yes.
But you have millions and millions and millions of children for the past 100 and nearly 200 years have collectively, consciously believed in Santa,
Yes.
in Santa Claus, Saint Nicholas, Kris Kringle,
Yes.
Papa Noel, blah blah blah. So yes, he does not exist in a physical way, but I will tell you, Santa is real.
Oh yeah.
I can tell you from my own experiences, Santa's very much real, and there's a movie Silent Night, which is like it's like a actiony black dark noir, like where the guy from Stranger Things, the police officer,
yes,
he plays
David
Santa.
Harbour.
Yes, and he plays Santa.
Oh my gosh, that was such a
and
great movie.
He is originally, in his mythology, he is a Viking. He was a Viking warrior who then like dies, and he then becomes basically this deity who runs on belief. And he says, she was like, "Oh, you still come to kids?" And he goes, the child in the film, she goes, you really are real. You still come to kids? And he goes, yeah, I do, to kids who still need me, to kids who still believe.
Yeah.
It's like the end of Polar Express with the bell.
Yeah.
I got emotional. And he says everyone else, even his own sister, stopped hearing it, but because he went to the North Pole, because he had that experience, he never stopped hearing the chiming of the bell. God damn it!
I know.
I'm such a little crybaby. Anyway, but that's what it is. Is like that. Like he does exist.
Yes.
That's an egregore. Enough people, collective consciously, have believed in this entity that it then created this entity.
Yeah.
That yes, and I'm not the only one who has real fucking stories they can't explain of Santa Claus being fucking real in ways that like is not like some mall Santa shit where you're like, wait, what? Maybe so. Like there's a reason Santa endures because people have experienced him in a very real way. I have.
Yeah.
Just like people have experienced La Befana in a real fucking way. Like there's a reason these entities continue and persist because yes, there's a lot of it's just the parents, but there are moments where a child really needed them and they fucking showed up in a way that could not be explained, and that was tangible and real. Yeah. That's an egregore. Exactly. That is how that is made. You and maybe 30 other people in your Facebook nerd group worshiping Queen Beryl of Sailor Moon does not make her a dark goddess.
No.
That really is real. Like, no, I'm sorry. Her archetype exists. Lilith too. Like the archetype Hel, the goddess Hel, Hel. The invocation of the Hel meaning of the afterworld, not the Christian version with the second L.
We're not talking about the flames,
right?
You know, Dante's Inferno.
Right.
No.
that dramatic novel of horror, because that's all it was a horror novel.
Exactly. I mean, I loved it.
Yes, but it was just a transcendental meditative horror novel, and he was practicing transcendental meditation when he wrote it.
Oh, you know what else I loved that I read in college? Gilgamesh.
Oh, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which predates the flood of Noah by like 7,000 years, and fucking is where a lot of the Christian Old Testament mythos come from. Like, yeah, that's not going to make an egregore. Like, there is specific. So when you have this bullshit on social media and people talking this way, and you have these witch talk videos that are clearly scams, it takes away the validity of paganism, really of being people of faith, and therefore it doesn't get considered. So in relation to reclaiming and why it's maybe a difficult road, as I think we've shown examples of, is that there is deity hopping. There is a fantasy psychosis role play of creating a god, goddess, whatever force out of whatever fictional character you want to follow. And we're now in an age where the Christians are taking over everything. The evangelicals, the Christian nationalists, the right, have now control of everything, and they're rewriting laws, and they're trying to reshape shit, right? And it's really important as witches, as pagans, as polytheists, especially now, to start in some ways calling out this bullshit. I'm sorry, but like if you're on Witch Talk and someone's like, oh, fucking I don't know who's something popular. Fucking Optimus Prime of Transformers is my deity, is my god.
Right.
You need to call it out and be like, no, and you're making us fucking look bad. People, we're not getting taken seriously if you're sitting there and saying that literally you can make a god or a goddess out of Sailor Moon. You can worship the Red Ranger as a god.
Right.
Like, no, it's not. One person does not make an egregore. It takes millions of people, thousands, millions of people, thought, energy, belief, real genuine belief in a collective, omnipresent way to then create this force. It is a lot of psychic energy to make that happen, collective belief to create a deity out of something that then actually has effect and omnipresence and idea on its own. Call that out. We need to start reclaiming the words of faith,
Yes.
people of faith, religion, spirituality. These are words and language that we need to take back and start using, because if we don't, we're going to be completely wiped out of the narrative, and shit's going to start looking really ugly for us. And it already is.
It is.
The right is already using languages, pagan, satanic, to describe every witchcraft, to describe everything they don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Kendrick Lamar or actual witches.
Right.
So it's important. So reclaim it. All right, next we have SpellCraft.
Yes.
And this episode of SpellCraft, as promised, is all about getting rid of someone, an unwanted lover or companion. We gave love spells for getting that specific someone, or just general bring to you someone for Valentine's Day, and as promised.
Now we're here with the get the fuck out of my bed song.
Exactly. So first and foremost, I have a breakup powder. Really kind of simple. You can get most of these herbs, actually all these herbs, probably either online or at your local botanical or new age witchcraft shop. Grind a powder together of the following dried botanicals: lemongrass, mullein, patchouli, valerian root, and vetiver, and sprinkle the powder in the pockets and shoes of the one who you would like to get rid of. And when doing so, say, "What has been done, I now undo. What was love or lust, etc., between us now is through. Your love for me turns to disdain, becoming rot starting today. They will be gone within the week, if not sooner." I have personally done this before, and I will tell you, it did not take a week. It took like 2 or 3 days, and they went from like thinking I was the greatest thing on earth to just like ghosting me, which was great because I didn't want to have to deal with any type of breakup. So
Exactly.
I stand behind this one.
Nice. Okay, so mine, I mean, I'm sure y'all will be so surprised when you hear it's another ritual bath.
You are the queen of ritual baths.
I really am. I'm like, I just can't stay away from them. I love them. I love to be in the bath. What can I say? Anyway, so this one is a black snake root bath. And it is and you can use this on either yourself or another person.
Okay.
So it's for when you wish someone would reconsider a romantic relationship. So let's say you're in a toxic relationship, you can do this on yourself and your partner. Or if you're looking at your friend, you're like, their partner is trash and they're not going to leave them, you can also do this for them. Basically, you're going to pour boiling water over chopped black snake root, fill a bath with water as you normally would.
Mm-hmm.
And when that black snake root infusion cools, do not strain it, but pour it into your bath water.
Okay.
Kind of all as
right.
one.
Just add it into it.
Yeah.
Mix it up.
So then you're gonna get like a ladle like you use for soups.
Mm-hmm.
Go into the bath, and then you're gonna ladle the infusion over your body.
Okay.
And just as a precautionary, don't use the spell if you are pregnant, because black snake root is not pregnancy safe.
Okay.
So that is my only real like caveat to this. Obviously, if you're in a toxic relationship and you are pregnant, you're going to want to have a different spell.
Breakup power.
Yes.
That's when you come to this one.
Exactly. But if that is not the case, feel free to get in that black snake bath.
I love it. And I love black snake root.
Yeah.
It's so volatile. It's so volatile. And it's so versatile for good and bad. And I think that's great. So yeah, that's SpellCraft. Get out of that situation.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we come to, once again, the Crystal Mountains, into the kingdom of the Lord, to join Chuck Smith Sr. and Carol Latriciana on the throne of paganism and despair, to once again explore the Pagan Invasion. We are now at Volume 5, The Dawning of the New Age. We thought tarot cards, horoscopes, astrology certainly can't continue to be the racism of the past 3 episodes. But it is. We were wrong, and it is. Once again, the 1960s are the problem. The flower power movement of the flower children, of the hippies. The dawning of the age of Aquarius has brought in hell on earth.
Yes. Oh, and Earth Day is a pagan celebration of Gaia.
Yes, Earth Day is a pagan celebration of Gaia. You know what I never learned about during my entire school years, and we did Earth Day every year.
Yeah, every year.
I never heard anything about
name.
fucking Gaia.
No.
But okay, yeah. They speak with they talk about James Lovelock, who came up with this concept that everything is connected in one organism called the Gaia effect or concept, and this was saying that this specifically is what relates to Earth Day / climate change equals bad, was basically the message.
Yeah.
That a global consciousness to stopping global warming, so i.e. bringing down production, fossil fuels, etc., is evil, bad, blah. Carol Patriciana shows up at an Earth Day festival, Earth Day 1990, the Earth Day Global Earth Day 1990 March in DC or whatever. She went and spoke with someone that was clearly an actor, clearly a hired actor, to be the interviewee at the Global Earth Day 1990 event. And he was like, our Mother Earth, Gaia, we have to do everything for her. She's our, like, and it was so performative, and it was really clear that they had hired an actor who looked like an educated, upper middle class white guy, who I would say, like, if I had to regionally put him somewhere, I would say he came from Berkeley. Like, he came from Northern California, is how visually you would look at him and translate that. But it was so clearly just someone they hired to be this, like, Earth Day intellectual pagan. Just by the way he talked, it was so dramatic, so theater, so performative.
For sure.
Ugh.
Oh, so they were talking about how Eastern gurus are claiming to be Jesus.
Right.
Stating that the UN promotes New Age practices, brought up the Pentagon meditation rooms, stated that the New Age practices are, quote unquote, merging all religions into one.
Yes. Oh, yeah. They asked the question, are pagans just peaceful and wanting everyone to set aside their differences and try to save the planet and mankind? Or is it something darker, an evil pagan plot for an evil new world order, which involved NATO and the UN?
Mm-hmm. One other thing I loved, I mean, I didn't love it, but I'm sarcastically saying that I love it, is when they brought on Dave Hunt again,
Dave Hunt, yes.
So first he said that this new world order will be ruled over by the Antichrist.
Yes.
But then he goes on to conflate the fall of Lucifer in biblical legend with Adam and Eve being cast out of the garden.
Right.
So basically it's two very unrelated biblical legends that he is stating are concurrent and happening together, and which is not the way that it was in the legend. So
right.
Christians just really like to latch on to certain things and put their own narrative on them.
Yeah, again, they only continue to reference Gods of the New Age, the documentary based off the Carol Patriciana book. Bush Sr., because this was, again, 1991. So Bush, George H.W., George H.W. Bush, Sr., isn't actually a Christian. He performs Christian, apparently, but he's actually in league with bringing the revival of Rome and and facilitating the takeover of everything by the Antichrist. The Dalai Lama is bad, of course. The time of the return of Rome as a society to make way for the Antichrist.
I'm blanking on this woman's name, but one of the ladies that they had on the show.
The Joanna whatever from the other one. Joanna Michelson.
So she's saying that words such as vibrations, etc., put us in a state as to open our minds to demonic attacks.
Right. There was more racism about Eastern religions and in Eastern people. Dave Hunt kept making mentions of, like, different faiths that were, like, against each other. So, like, Hindus and Buddhists and Muslims and against Christians, Jews against whatever, but Jews against Muslims. But then he does not mention who Christians are against. Right. Like, it's just this constant framing of, but Christians don't, we do nothing wrong. Right. We do nothing wrong, even though we know that Christianity is, like, the fault of, like, almost every problem we've had. Promoting tolerance of other faiths is actually evil because the scripture is against that, because Jesus is the one true way. And so, of course, the Christian biblical scripture is not about tolerance and sharing and kindness. Catholics and the Pope and the Vatican are actually evil and working to bring back the Antichrist by the rising of Rome too.
Which honestly it read like he had been sitting at home watching the Omen trilogy.
Yeah, this is stupid. The collapse of communism and the fall of the Berlin Wall
Yeah.
is actually a sign of evil, and that the Antichrist is coming, and these were only good things on paper, but not actually real good things. But still good things because they're Christian and they want the end times because they want to be delivered.
Right.
And so,
they need something to be delivered from.
Right. It's so convoluted.
It really is. And I mean, like you said, he mentioned a growing partnership between politics and religion, and then stated that all of this leads back to paganism.
Right. And then he continuously misrepresents the Emperor Constantine, conflates him with being a pagan emperor, that is just not true. He was partially a pagan emperor, but then he had a vision of a flaming cross in the sky on the battlefield and converted to Christianity right then and there, and then turned around and made Christianity the official religion of Rome, and therefore by extension made way to spread it, to take over and dominate the Western world. It just doesn't even make any sense. Christianity even has the power it has and took control because of Constantine. Not in spite of him, but because of his conversion.
Right.
So to then say, a new pagan whole leader of the New World Order and one New World Order religion, all this crazy conspiracy shit, and then to say this Antichrist is going to be Constantine.
Right.
Well, first and foremost, in the Bible, when it talks about the Antichrist, it is talking about the Emperor Nero. Not Constantine, Nero. And it's when you actually read the prophecy of the Antichrist in the book of Revelations, which is not the poem from the films, but it's actually very separate, different.
The actual passage in the Bible.
When you read the actual passage in the Bible, you can tell it is talking about a time and a person that has come and gone. Mm-hmm. You can just the problem with Christians, it's sitting there and saying that I don't know, the saying that some prophecy from the Greek myth is somehow relevant now. It's somehow a prophecy of something that has yet to happen.
Right.
No. It has it's no.
We've been here.
No. So it just, in a nutshell, I mean, it explains why you see now, why they want to get rid of NATO, why they want to get rid of the UN, what they think about. They think that the UN and NATO is in some kind of cabal. It's some kind of occult cabal, New World Order shit. And now it helps to understand, where that comes from. That, everyone's why do Republicans, why do the JOP, why do they want to get rid of these global institutions? Because for them, tolerating other faiths, other religions, partnering with anything other, and not making them Christian, not forcing them to be Christian, means it's a cabal of evil.
Right.
If the UN's mission was to convert people to Christianity, then they'd be completely fine with it.
Right.
But because it's just about these nations, about respecting other culture, well, no, it's evil. It's paranoid, xenophobic, nationalist crap. And, I just want to get back to, I'm tired of the racist shit, the racist Eastern shit.
I'm excited for their episode about the Mormons. Because I also like making fun of Mormons.
Yes. All right. So stay tuned for Pagan Invasion, Volume 6. Yeah, 6. Next episode, full moon. All right. Lastly, Witchy Media review.
Yay.
This was very short.
Yeah,
we watched a short special documentary. Originally I found it was 33 minutes long, but I think that upload disappeared, so we only watched a 10-minute one. But it was an interview with, I'm sure many of you in the witchy community watching this will know the name, recognize the name, Janet Farrar. And this documentary was called Irish Witch Queen, and it was a RTE doc from 1977. RTE is the BBC version of shit in Ireland. And this was nonsense. This woman, really first of all, she's looks like a model. She's glamorous and wearing sequiny sparkly. Which, look, great. She looked awesome. The fashion, but it was just as soon, you see her physically and you're oh, she looks like a model. And then she immediately opens her mouth and she says, there are many black witchcraft covens, and I am issuing a challenge to their leaders right now. Come out and face me. Fight me for my title. Until then, I will be the witch queen of this country. She's from England. She's from Clapham, East London, as well as her husband, who is a script writer for Pathé International and BBC.
Right.
And then they packed up her daddy and moved to Ireland, where she makes this declaration that she is the queen of an English woman, a British lady. If any of you know your history and know about Ireland, and the English. This is extremely gross and colonialist and oppressive and offensive. And it's just further, like, she's like, I don't know why. The interviewer says, why haven't these other witches come out and publicly like you have? And she's like, to challenge you, she's like, I don't know why they haven't. Because they're busy doing fucking witchcraft.
Right.
They're just living their fucking life. And they're in Ireland, which is super Catholic and Protestant, depending on where you are.
Right.
But now, granted, Irish Catholicism is very pagan. That and Mexican Catholicism are like the most pagan Catholicisms that there are. But, well, and Filipino.
Oh, yeah. But, like, you have to call it Catholicism because if you call it witchcraft, they're going to come for you.
Right. But it's super pagan Catholicism
yes,
outside of versus other types of Catholicism. But so they're not coming out publicly and being like, I'm a witch, especially this was like the 70s. You have this woman who came from East London.
Yeah.
Who
From
probably
her job as a receptionist.
Right. Who probably tried to make her name herself and become a famous witch. But like it was London, so there were witches, there were famous witches already, and there were people, Doreen Valiente, Gerald Gardner.
Exactly.
It was already a thing. What do? You go to Ireland, where it's so Catholic, it's so where no one's fucking like, I'm a fucking witch. And then you go and you say, I'm a witch, and I'm the queen of witches. I'm the Irish queen of witches, even though you're from freaking England. You're from London. Well, guess what? Of course, you're going to get a heck of a ton of media attention.
Exactly.
Because you're the only one doing this.
Right.
It was gross. And it was also
really was.
clearly Gardenian witchcraft.
Yes.
Wicca. Which, we will get into all of the Gerald Gardner of it all. But, yeah, and the thing is like, we will watch more obscure documentaries and things from like the 60s and 70s and stuff for the show. But, like, I will tell you, as someone who has watched a lot of these other types of these old like documentaries from television and stuff back then from the 60s and 70s on witches, there is a lot of this weird like, I'm the witch queen, I'm the witch prince, challenge me. Like, it was a weird time. And then you're just like, what is this about and why are you doing this? And like, you look like an idiot.
Exactly.
It's just like when people do ritual and shit on camera.
Oh my God, yeah.
It looks, I'm sorry, but 9 times out of 10 it looks stupid. And it just makes, because here's the thing, if you have camera crews and shit everywhere and you're being filmed and you're so focused on all of that, you're not going to get some amazing effect to be seen on camera.
No.
Because you're too out of it. The only reason why it's like, why when they do the invocation on the beach and the craft, it actually worked and fucked shit up was because they're actors.
Right.
They get into the character, they get into the shit. They were doing real ritual, doing real witchcraft. They were embodying these archetypes, these characters. Mm-hmm. They were becoming these people. As we all know, famously, Firuza Bulk was the co-owner of Panpipes Magic Shop, Witchcraft Shop. She brought the real witch on set. She was practicing. Like, I don't know if she still does. I think she still does. Yeah. But famously, she was known. Yeah, she does have witch face. So you forget the cameras are there. You're acting. You get into it. That would make sense why, in a circumstance like that, something would happen.
Right.
But when you're just like there and you have a bunch of camera crew from the BBC and you're by yourself in your backyard doing ritual, you're too focused on all of that and you're by yourself, you don't have a collective to fall into shit, that it's not going to be an experience and something usually isn't going to happen on camera or affect the camera. No. So, yeah.
Plus, depending on what deity, if any, that you follow, like they may just be like, I'm not going to come for these other people. I just want to speak to you.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. So, I don't know. What do we give this? I'm personally giving this a waning crescent.
I was gonna go waning gibbous.
So a waning gibbous and a waning crescent.
Yeah.
There you have it. That is is it worth watching? I think, for a giggle, for something weird. Yeah. The score to it was like crazy, kooky, like experimental 70s shit.
Right. I mean, if anything, it's worth watching just to quote the, like, I am the witch queen, come challenge me.
Oh my God, yeah. That alone is worth watching this thing. It's, again, you just look it up on YouTube. Janet Farrar, Janet, Janet, Farrar, I think spelled Farrar. Irish witch queen. Just look it up on YouTube.
Yeah. Which is funny because she's not Irish.
No. Ugh.
You know, they couldn't even say, like, witch queen of Ireland. It would be, like, Irish witch queen, but she's English.
Yeah. So, anyway, that is another episode down.
Yes.
See us again on the full moon episode, which will also be our vernal equinox.
Yes.
Ostara springtime.
Exactly.
Special.
Gotta usher in those rays of the sun.
Yes. And I'm thinking for Delicious Witch, maybe like a potato dish,
Ooh,
something
yeah.
like just like a
Mhm.
simple, like good, like springtimey, herby potato dish,
Yeah.
like a scallop potato dish or something. Or maybe a roast chicken, Cornish game hen or
Yeah.
something, because I love a good roast chicken in the
Yeah,
springtime.
you do.
Anyway, join us next time on the full moon for the next episode of Spelling the HEKA-TEA, the Vernal Equinox special. Until then, remember, witches, broomsticks, not just for cleaning.